everybody, I'm back. It's Kay Adams here. We've got Ernie Adams talk on the show, Matt Hamachek. We've got Dynasty on Apple. Latest episodes, we're going to dig into Bill Belichick. We're going to dig into Aaron Hernandez. We're going to dig into everything with him on the program this morning. If you have questions, hit us up at Up and Adams Show. Yeah, we're back. We got breaking news this morning. Mike Evans, is he the most underrated wide receiver one of all time? You know who's going to answer that question for me? Chris Collinsworth on the show, and I'm a tennis girly. Baby, we're back in Los Angeles. I was in Vegas yesterday. I'm going to recap my time with Rafael, whose first foray into tennis is Rafael Nadal, Carlitos Alcaraz, and sitting next to Andre Agassi. Who gets that? I did. Luckiest Girl Ever. Netflix Slam was absolutely amazing. For those of you who watched, we're going to recap it a little bit. New to the tennis world, so grateful to get to swim in those tennis ace waters with some of the greatest to ever do it and talk about it and analyze it. It was absolutely epic, absolutely amazing. We're going to talk a little football. We had a good old combine that we have to get into, but some breaking news. Let's do it. Can you tell I've rested? Mike Garafolo. Hi, Mike. NFL Media. Ever heard of him? He's reporting that Mike Evans has agreed to a 2-year deal to stay in Tampa. So here's how I think of this. I mean, he's so underrated. I can't wait to ask Chris Collinsworth about it. He's coming off his 10th straight 1,000-yard season. That is an NFL record to start his career. And I think this is important for a couple of reasons. It's not just a headline. It's not just like a on the crawl and we move away. So beyond getting to keep what is a franchise legend in the building, a Super Bowl champion, I do think that this means Baker's coming back. That's what I think. We talked to Baker at the Super Bowl, of course. Mike Evans' agent is Derek Gilmore. He came out Saturday and he said that Evans, quote, doesn't want to mess around with a quarterback he doesn't trust or know at this stage in his career. Granted, he's had 1,000-yard seasons catching the ball from lots of guys, but I think, you know, he signs this deal at this point knowing what's going to happen at quarterback, having at least a great idea about that. And I think we're going to hear from Baker on this very soon. And by the way, as I said, we did have Baker on during Super Bowl week, and he had plenty to say about his wide receiver one.
We both have to do what's best for ourselves, but yeah, I would, if I'm back in Tampa, I would love to have Mike back. And the guy deserves to be a Buck for life.
You love him.
Yeah, Mike Evans definitely deserves to be a Buck for life. And he's not just one of the best wide receivers, underrated wide receivers, one of the best underrated, but he's also one of the best guys out there as well. He does so much for the community and for charities in the city of Tampa without even putting his name on it. He just does it under the low, and it's just so great. He's just a great guy just overall.
Evans put up his highest receiving total in 5 years. He led the league in touchdown catches with Baker, who sort of lit up, started beaming once we started talking to him at Super Bowl about his guy. So I'm excited to see this duo run it back. Jason Light, we know you, we love ya. You gotta get the deal done to bring Baker back. I think by all accounts, as you're bringing Hammer, by all accounts, you know, we were on the phone on my drive in. I do want to ask Chris, like, he is, for some reason, not given the love. He's a Super Bowl champion. You can't say it was Brady because he's done so much work in so many seasons opposite Chris Godwin, not with Chris Godwin out there, just like putting up great numbers. And I love that Gronk brings up the point, and it's not a throwaway, what he is as a man from when he was drafted, from when we were doing our draft stories on him over on Good Morning Football about what kind of a person he is and what a good example he is.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, you brought it up with the 10 straight 1,000-yard seasons. He's just been the model of consistency. And isn't that what greatness is? You know, being able to perform at a high level for such a long period of time. And you're right. I don't feel like it gets appreciated enough, especially when you look at, because, you know, you mentioned Brady. He's done it with so many different quarterbacks, too. And with a lot of instability at the quarterback position, he's still shown up every single year and performed at the highest level.
Hall of Famer?
I think so. I definitely think so. I wouldn't have thought about that a few years ago. It was actually, you know, we were talking with Chris Carter on Good Morning Football, and he was the first one that I heard really say it. And when you look into the numbers, he's right. Mike Evans has a Hall of Fame resume already, and it's only going to continue to grow over these next couple of years.
Did you watch the Combine like just an animal as usual?
I took little breaks here and there, you know, to celebrate my birthday and all that. But I did whatever I missed live. I made sure to catch up on. So
Everybody,
yes, I am up on
it was
everything.
Hamilton's birthday this past weekend. Happy birthday, Matthew Hamilton. You spent it watching Dune. Do you care to give us quickly, before we dig into the combine and the nitty gritty of it all and give some takeaways, do you have a movie review to give on Dune?
It was phenomenal. I give it 10 out of 10. I think it's going to win an Oscar. I think it was that good. I think it was it was one of the best movies I've seen in years. One of the best new movies I've seen in years.
Are you joking?
Sure. No.
Oh, it's really good?
It was unbelievable. It was unbelievable.
Oh, I thought there's like a bunch of TikTok jokes about how does anybody actually see the movie Dune, or they just want to have the movie so Zendaya can like look amazing on the red carpet and shut everything down. Really, people actually watch the movie Dune. I might have to see the first and second one. Guys, light up the chat here. I want to hear if Dune is something that I need to be thinking about. I mean, we'll ask Daniel Jones when he comes back on the show. How much? $81.5 million? Is that good? I don't know anything about the
Sounds pretty good to me.
Industry. Okay. Let's dig into the combine, something that you and I know a thing or two about Matthew Hamilton. And I want to start, and you chime in here. Let's go with three sort of winners, people who we walked away from like, oh, let's put them on our Up and Adams radar. And we got to start with JJ McCarthy, Michigan quarterback, because yes, you have your Caleb Williamses and your Drake Mays and your Jayden Daniels. They didn't throw, but JJ was like, I'm going to throw. I'm going to light it up on Saturday. And I'm not bringing this up to knock out, or knock down any guy who said, like, I don't want to throw, but it did make an opportunity. You want to, like, be asymmetrical? You want to, like, zig when people are zagging? Great. It made it a nice little opportunity for JJ to stand out. And then there's also the extra pressure, like, I'm the guy throwing, so I'm the guy throwing. But he capitalized. He was amazing. He dropped dime after dime during the session, as you just saw. He didn't run the 40, but he put up some amazing numbers for a quarterback in really every other athletic test that he did participate in. The only knock I heard on him the entire weekend was Hamilton. Hand size. Shit. Tell me what I need to know.
Yeah, I mean, that is one thing, obviously. We've seen it, as much as we joke about it, we've seen it have an effect for some guys, especially in bad weather. But overall, you saw the command that he had throwing. And, really the only knock on him throughout the season, even obviously won a national championship, was phenomenal all year for Michigan. But the knock is that he didn't have to throw a lot. A lot of jokes that he didn't throw at all. This was the most we saw him throw all year.
Wow.
Was at the combine. But I think that's why it was important for him to go out there and throw and look the way that he did, because I think it shows people, hey, he can go out there with the most talented quarterbacks that are in this draft and go throw for throw with them. So I don't think you can really knock a guy for the system that he played in. So it was important for him to show, like, hey, I can open it up and air it out.
And you have Caleb talking to reporters saying, like, go watch my 30 games. Like, go watch, like, I don't need to throw. Sort of the opposite with JJ. He rose to the occasion. Yeah. I will ask you, in the context of history, or what you think, how much does hand size affect draft placement? You look at a Brock Purdy, that's who you're talking about, hand size affecting guys in bad weather. He was Mr. Irrelevant. He's last in line. How much do you think hand size specifically played into that?
I don't know. I think it was a factor. I think there are other factors there too. But we saw Kenny Pickett with smaller hands go in the first round as well. So I don't know if that helps or hurts his case at this point, because we haven't seen Pickett have the success. But it's definitely something, that's going to be a wrench in the gears here as we see this quarterback hierarchy in this draft start to take shape.
Chris Collinsworth joining the show. I have an amazing fan on Instagram who just messaged me tons of Chris Collinsworth facts. Don't you love I love when fans do this, and they give me all this ammo. Let's take a look at some of the. He had a bad visit to Alabama. His room, oh my gosh, this is so fun. He's nicknamed Two Iron by his high school coach, Jay Donnelly. Like, I get the deepest facts from some people whenever I say who's on the show or what's going on. Okay, something about a Pinto. He picked up college coach Bear Bryant in a Collinsworth family Pinto. Manual shift. He stalled the car out more than once, but stayed cool the whole time. Bryant later remarked that Chris's coolness under pressure impressed him more than anything. What? Where do these things? He had a spitting contest with friends when he was a kid. It was an electric fence, and Chris wore braces at the time. He won, but he also got the shock of his life doing. Where do people So people are coming for your job, Matthew Hamilton, because you're supposed to be the best researcher, and I don't know any of those facts. All right, we've got Chris Collinsworth coming up. Going to ask him about Mike Evans. Going to ask him, of course, maybe a little combine, probably not. I wanted to talk to him and have some fun, but let's give out some more love. And speaking of receivers, I mean, sort of a winner of the combine, of course, potential top 5 picks, Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors. They didn't even test, right? But the group put on a show. Xavier Worthy of Texas, he was the star here. Record-setting 4.21 40. Everybody's talking about it. But every top receiver, I feel like, from this group had a big day. Ladd McConkey out of Georgia, 4.39. Holy smokes, he popped out in pretty much all the drills. Then you have this 6'3" receiver, Hamilton, that you like. Why don't you size him up, a 4.4?
Yeah, Rome Odunze from Washington showed off the athleticism. You can see him here doing all these flips. The competitiveness really stood out too. He reportedly refused to leave the field until he got the time that he wanted on the 3-cone drill. So, people really liked the competitive fire that he showed, wanting to compete, wanting to do his best at all these drills. And you see, for being a 6'3" receiver, to show off that kind of athleticism is pretty special.
Amazing. We're going to take a short break here. We're going to talk a little tennis. We're going to talk to Chris Collinsworth after this. We'll be back. We'll break down more of the combine later. We've got like 9 weeks to do it. It's the off season. Let's talk about your braces, Chris. Let's talk about your life of, look at those beautiful teeth. We'll take a break. We'll be right back. All right. Hey, Hamilton. I think we can. I think we can still do the rest of that later.
Okay.
That's perfect. That's what I figured. That's perfect. I'm trying to think of things. Hamilton, do you want to move some things or prioritize some things?
Yeah. I'll move this down to the C.
Or just for stuff we want, make sure to get with Chris.
Okay. Yeah, I think I moved the first two ones we definitely want to get to. Yeah. And Kelce.
And that's news that's out there about Jason?
Yeah.
Okay.
He announced that he's having the press conference.
Great. Love that. Dune 2 is a must-see.
Did you get DM'd? Oh, yeah. Did you get DM'd about Chris Collinsworth's hand size, though?
Did I what?
Did you get DM'd about Collinsworth's hand size?
No.
Is that a part of the dossier that you got?
No, I mean, these facts are ridiculous. Yeah, oh yeah, we get it. We get it, Chris. We know. He got a family pinto. Who knows? College visits. He had a bad visit to Alabama. His roommate during the visit, Charlie Colazzo? Sorry, I don't know who that is. He snored all night, and on the rough ride back aboard Alabama's 2-engine plane, he threw up in Chris's lap. Chris, that's not true. Chris, is that true?
What did you just say?
Okay. You had a bad visit to Alabama. Your roommate during the visit snored all night, and on the rough ride back aboard Alabama's 2-engine plane, Colazzo threw up in your lap.
That's true.
What?
I mean, he threw up. They fed us a breakfast that you cannot believe. This dude ate for like 16 straight hours. I've never seen anything. And then we go on a private plane, and this thing is bouncing around. And I'm like, for me, I mean, I rode on an F-14. They can do anything to me. I'm not even thinking about it.
G-force, Shme-force, yeah.
This dude turned and started puking, and I mean, it took as long to come out as it did
okay.
go down. It was awful. Oh, God.
Puke talk on a Monday. We're coming back in 20 seconds. All right, Chris, let's bring it. It's good to see you.
All of it's true. All that good stuff.
Yeah, people, we've got an army here. Oh, so funny. Okay, let's do it. How many seconds? Oh, okay, it's okay. What a great way to kick off the NFL offseason here on the show. Joining us now, 3-time Pro Bowl wide receiver, Emmy Award-winning analyst for NBC Sunday Night Football, the mastermind behind the machine that is Pro Football Focus, Bengals legend Chris Collinsworth, and I hope you're having a happy Monday. No one's puked on you so far.
I don't know who it is that's DMing you there, but they're pretty good. They got some pretty good ones there.
When you need help writing your memoir or your biography,
Yeah.
I will connect the two of you.
Yeah.
Chris, how's your off season?
Good. I like everybody else, it's only been 3 weeks since the Super Bowl, right?
Crazy.
God dang, man. So everybody wants to just take a little break, and then I was at the combine for 3 days, going up there, and you try, and it's like, for me, college football season comes in the spring. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
Like, I do pro football during the season, and then I do college football. So when I'm watching Ohio State, Michigan, I'm like it just happened, So I'm watching all these tapes as we're going through, and you're getting ready for the draft and free agency and the whole thing. But I always say it's like the first sporting event I watch after the NFL season are the college basketball championships, because you just need a little break, right? You need a little time, because it's 7 days a week. It's nonstop. It's just you doing something all the time, and then finally at some point you go up to my wife. Hi, Holly, how are you? It's nice to meet you. Yes, I remember. Yeah,
what have you been up to? Yeah. Wait, so I did not know that you were at the combine this entire time. Look at you. Tell me, give me the.
No.
Oh,
Well, see, with
watched.
PFF, so I was there for 3 days, but I wasn't there when the players were working out. They wouldn't let me in anyway. They let special Peter Schrager and those guys go down. But so we just go and we meet with all the teams and we do all that. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, I love that. And I know that we've got lots to talk about, but let's start. We had some breaking news this morning in the wide receiver world. Got to get your thoughts. Mike Evans, back to Tampa, 2-year deal. This is a guy, 10 straight 1,000-yard seasons. Okay, Super Bowl champion. I feel like when we talk about the great wide receivers in the league, it's Tyreek, it's Jefferson, it's Devontae Adams. Why doesn't Mike Evans not get brought up more?
That's a really good question. He's not flashy in the traditional sense. Like, so many times when you study for the draft or you study free agency or whatever, you fall in love on the film with quick guys, and people who run 40-yard dashes. But let's think about that. If you're 6'4" and weigh 230 pounds or whatever he weighs, right? First of all, quarterbacks love that because they can actually get the ball to them. But you're not going to look flashy. You're not going to look quick. You're not going to look fast. You're not going to, none of that stuff. But I mean, think of some of the really great receivers in the game. I mean, they're all big, tall guys, right? Like Usain Bolt never led the 100 meters at 40 yards.
Right.
Think about when you've seen him in the Olympics. He never led at 40 yards. So if we were going to judge the fastest man in the world based on the 40-yard dash, you're going to end up with a bunch of guys that are 5'7", 5'8", those kind of smaller guys, because the first 10 yards is where you make up that difference. But what matters most when you go into a football game? When those big beasts, they get rolling, right? When those big long-legged guys, they get running, and now that full stride is in effect. And it doesn't matter how fast you went the first 10 yards. It's a little bitterness, in my soul here with this whole thing.
Clearly.
But, those guys, the ones that become the real superstars, in my mind, are the bigger guys who, when they get to that 30-yard mark, and now it's time, it's, my Jets against your Jets, and that stride length starts making a difference out there. And that's where he's won over the years. It hasn't been flashy and pretty and all that, but that big dog gets rolling, man. And then at the catch point, man, you going to take the ball away from him? I don't think so. Baker Mayfield loves him.
Yeah.
Baker probably gave up some of his salary to keep him.
I asked Baker about it in Super Bowl. I have a feeling Baker, I don't know that Mike Evans signs without Baker coming back. They had a really strong season together, a lot of chemistry. And I know Mike Evans at this point in his career, he does not want to deal with a revolving door of quarterbacks or even a new quarterback. So I have a feeling my bold prediction here is that we'll have news on Baker returning to Tampa Bay here shortly, and maybe a future Hall of Fame situation for Mike Evans, who keeps it going a decade in. Speaking of Hall of Fame worthy guys, Jason Kelce. Did you see this? He posted this morning. He's going to address the media at 1 Eastern to talk about his future. I'm assuming it's a retirement. This guy, here's a guy, 6th round draft pick. He's got to be a Hall of Famer. What do you think?
This means you got your mad scientist thing going.
This is my Mr.
Your
Burns.
conspiracy theory. Could he come back? That's what you're asking me, right? You're not asking me, could he come back? Like, I could see
what do you think?
that this magical run, right, with Taylor Swift and his brother, and I could see this whole thing exploding now into something much bigger, and we're all going to be so excited about. And the NFL is basically paying for the Kelce boys out of Cincinnati, Ohio.
Oh.
Thank you very much. And Cleveland a little bit. They went to college down in Cincinnati. See these guys becoming an even bigger part of the NFL. I hope so. I love Jason. I think he's great.
Do you think there's a chance he's not done?
I mean, how hard would it be to look at the team that he has, right? I mean, what they went 10 out of the first 11, something like that. And then whatever happened to them at the end of the year. I don't know that any of us are ever going to be able to explain what happened. But watch Travis again and win another one. And, this is what always happens at the end of a football season. And they lost a little earlier this year, in like the first round of the playoffs there. So he's had a month and a half, whatever it is, off here. And your body starts to feel okay. And, and you get a couple of people in Philadelphia go, come on, man, you got another run. And we got a good team, and when the season's over, you're like ecstatic. You're physically exhausted. You're done. You want no more part of football. You hate football. And it's like, I just don't want to go to practice anymore. And then a month and a half later, sometimes stuff happens, sometimes you just kind of start to feel it a little bit. Would it stun me if he announced he was coming back? It would not stun me, no.
It would stun me, I think, to make a press conference to announce you're coming back.
That's interesting.
Like, that's kind of a lot. I feel like you're doing that to call it. And if he does call it, I mean, is he the best center of all time?
All right, I'm going to brag on PFF just a little bit here. And I don't do this very often, but
please. Offensive
line is probably the one thing that nobody else studies, right? And we watch every play and every game. We have these guys nailed. And Travis Kelce, obviously the star, but Jason went from, where he was, 5th, 6th round draft pick, something like that.
6th.
But when you start watching every single play, as athletic as Travis is out there on the field, as smart as Travis is finding those little holes and in the coverage, as good as all that is, I'm telling you, Jason is that good at getting to the second level of guys and reaching people and playing on the move. We did the Super Bowl where they beat the Patriots, and I felt like I must have done 15 replays of Jason Kelce in that game, getting downfield to the next level. And I'm like, that has to be the most a center was ever shown in the history of a Super Bowl. So I think he can still play. I certainly do. I've watched enough of their tape this year. I do think he can still play and play at a very high level. But I think, when you get into your mid-30s, people start thinking about all this stuff. That's a lot of hits to the head. But Philadelphia will be they'll be a different team if he's not at center. They will be.
I wonder, if you're Commissioner Goodell, are you you're not retiring? Or are you retire and come to NBC, come to Fox?
Yeah,
come to
if you're asking me if I have any insider information on there, I don't. But he would fit in very nicely at NBC.
Sure.
We interview him almost, those production meetings, all that stuff. We do that almost every time we go to Philadelphia. We get Jason because he can talk about the whole. Mm-hmm. He's not an offensive lineman that can talk about, offensive lineman and defensive lineman. He can talk about the whole, and so he's going to be really good on television.
Yeah, there'll be a different team, and maybe Jason will be the one to give us the answers to this epic collapse by this Eagles team that had so much talent going into last year, and of course now going into this next year, potentially without maybe the best center of all time. You mentioned PFF and the Combine. I'm sure that you have the best guys in the business, best people in the business, getting these numbers, aggregating them, making something of them. But there was numbers that we couldn't get, right? Potential #1 pick, Caleb Williams. He said, nope, no medical testing, no throwing drills. Some people are questioning competitiveness for not participating. Where do you fall on how he's handled this Combine?
I could give 2 cents. I just don't care. I don't care. He's, it's interesting when you're talking about any of these young men now. I mean, forever the NFL was, it, and you just followed the rules and you just did. We didn't even have free agency when I played. I mean, you were stuck with one team the whole time we were there. Now, Caleb Williams has made $10 million in college football. Mm-hmm. Now, there may have been other people who made $10 million that we didn't really know about, but he did. This NIL stuff is you're in a business discussion with the guys that are on the top end of the draft now, and I think that Caleb Williams understands his value and understands what he's going to mean to either, I think, the Chicago Bears or the Washington Commanders, wherever he ends up landing here. So yeah, I don't think he's setting the rules. He's like, why am I going to do a physical for 32 teams? I'm not making it past pick 1. Whoever it is, it's pick 1. So if you're thinking about jumping up to pick 1, I'll do a physical for you. And to some extent, as a former player who used to get really frustrated that you had no say in the matter, in any matter when it came to the NFL,
yeah,
it's kind of interesting now that the playing field is getting leveled just a bit.
It is interesting. A lot of power in the players' hands, which we love to see. Last one for you, Chris. Bengals, got to get into it here. They franchise T. Higgins, who I talked to the Super Bowl, and some think the reason that they tagged him so early in the process is so they could trade him. Chris, do you think they should move him, or should this Cincinnati team go all in this season?
I mean, if we can get Joe Burrow through training camp for once, I mean, it has been, 3 straight years now that he hasn't made it through there. And I thought the Bengals were going to win the Super Bowl this year. I really did. And Joe just could not get himself healthy. But this was the year that the money didn't matter as much, right? That they still had people on the lower end. So now you've got to pay T. Higgins. I tell you, I look at this draft class of wide receivers, and we've already seen Mike Evans get a huge payday. So, we understand T. Higgins with the play that you guys showed in the highlights is one of the most remarkable plays I think I've ever seen, what he was able to do with that one. But there are a lot of big wide receivers that can run in this draft as well. So it'll be really interesting as teams start to shop and compare, which is where we are right now. And do I need a T. Higgins, who is a proven commodity, who's a proven great player in the NFL, or do I need to pay my other superstar players on my respective team and then go draft one of these young receivers? And I think some of the answers are going to be, we're better off having this rookie wage scale wide receiver over here. But there's also a lot of teams sitting right on the brink there where a T. Higgins can put them over the top and put them in the Super Bowl. So we'll just have to see.
We'll have to wait and see. While you were talking, I looked at it's 48.5 million in space even after applying the tag.
Yeah. Oh, good.
All right.
You made that. I know when you switched over, you made that.
That's exactly right.
A couple of poor football players get a chance to make a little change on the Kay Adams level. I think
You're damn right, Chris Collinsworth. PFF is amazing. You guys, I mean, that's what the teams are going to look at in making these complicated decisions. All the information available. You guys are crushing the draft coverage, making everybody smarter and more aware of what's going on. All the grades, all the numbers, and all the mocks going on leading up to what's going to happen in Detroit in a couple of weeks. So thank you, Chris, for all that you do and for telling everybody that I make $50 million a year. Thank you.
I was trying to underplay it a little bit. I know you did.
Yeah, of course. I mean, obviously. I would never be on a 2-engine jet from Alabama getting thrown up on, I'll tell you that much. You're the best, Chris.
You should have seen that guy. He set a puking record. You would have loved it. All right. See you, Kay. Love you.
You're the best. Love you. Give my love to the family, to everybody. We'll be back after this. I want to get into some of the other quarterback stuff from the combine. We'll get into, I wanted to ask him if the Bears should take him number 1, but it sounds like whoever's ever at the top, and I think that they should. We'll get into it after this. Sorry, we're already in our time up. Chris is the best. So funny. So funny. Okay. Yeah. So from the, okay. The what? I think definitely the Jason Kelce, the team won't be the same without him. Is strong as far as captions. And what he said about Evans was good too. Oh, yeah. I will say you're so crazy. But that's how you're thinking already. That is a good underreaction, though. You know, I saw Jordan Love yesterday.
Yeah. Really?
Speaking of the Packers.
He was there?
Yeah. You know, he's like my favorite. I think he's like a little scared of me.
Why is that?
Because you can just tell that, because he's so like calm and like, I'm so like, rah! Like I saw him and just, you know, I did what I would do when I see somebody like that, and I was just so excited to see him. Our future 2024 MVP, Jordan Love. And I was just like, yeah. I was, you know, very enthusiastic, and I think he's just like, I think he just thinks that I'm like a total fangirl. Which is fun.
We know that's not the case. You're just a, you know, total psychopath about it, you know. Yeah.
I've seen Puka twice in the last 2 weeks, and I think he like has no idea who I am at all, and he's just like, who is this? He does not connect who I am at all, which is so funny to me.
Yeah.
Not that he should, but like, but I'm like, you know, like in his, you know how I am. With what now? Oh. Hello. One thing about, we're going to break down the dudes you need to know in the draft. The draft's only a couple of weeks away, so let's get into this. Washington quarterback Michael Penix Jr. One thing about him is he's going to bring back the lefty quarterback. Let's go. I mean, yes, Tua. He brought it back from extinction, the brink of extinction, a couple of seasons ago. But when he became, you know, he obviously was amazing. He became the first one to throw a pass in a game in 5 years. But listen, when there's one, you have none. In this case, you need two. Okay, to bring it back. When you're telling me we could have two lefties at the same time, we're really onto something, people. Penix has been doing his part. He shined at the combine. He had a little throwing sesh. on Sunday. The ball was jumping out of that. By the way, you're talking hand size here, 10.5 inches right there, just like he did all season when he was leading those Huskies to the national championship game. He was asked about being a lefty quarterback earlier this year, and he revealed that he's more focused on making his left-handed grandmother proud than he is on carrying the mantle for lefty quarterbacks in the league. But either way, he took a big step toward making that happen this weekend, and it was very impressive with everybody, and even things that I was seeing and hearing and being texted about from Indy as far as how he handled himself all weekend long. He's currently projected as like a second, third rounder. I'm wondering, given the buzz and just those highlights that we saw and some of the stuff I'm hearing, I wonder if he makes it a little bit of a jump. Ball was jumping out of his 10.5-inch mitts. Is he going to jump up the draft boards? Post-combine mocks might look a little bit different. And he did answer some lingering questions about his health, I believe, during the medical eval portion of the program as well. Were you impressed, Hamilton, with what you saw out of Penix? And you know I love a lefty, so I might be being biased. Yeah. You can tell me.
No, I was. I thought the throwing session was really good. And I think that you hit on it the last part. That was the biggest concern I think people had when he was at Indiana. He got hurt every single season, so there were people concerned, are the medical reports, is there going to be something serious there? And I think that's had people, have some reservations about moving him up on their mocks. But now that he answered those questions, apparently there's nothing in those medicals to be concerned about as regards to his future. You're right. Maybe we see him jump into the first round now.
You know who's a lefty? Nadal. We'll get into that.
You are all in on tennis now, aren't you?
I think Rafael Nadal is just the sweetest, and he's got this, there's this little baby Rafa, and he's 2 years old, and he's just hobbling about backstage. He had a tennis racket the size of him in his hand, and he was just chasing balls in the back of the hallway at Michelob Ultra Arena in Vegas, and I was like, am I witnessing greatness? I fell in love with the sport. I'm just very enthusiastic, when I'm introduced to something. I get into it, so we'll get into it in a little bit. But yes, lefties are back, because this doesn't take away from Tua, but it used to be Tua and Kellen Moore, even though he's not a quarterback, but he's still in the business. He's left-handed. That's cool. No, this would be something, and him being taken. You're telling me he could be taken in round 1? That would go a long way for what Ned Flanders would, he had a lefty store on The Simpsons. I always champion Ned Flanders for that one fact alone. And wow, I did a Mr. Burns and a Ned Flanders. Yeah. I tweeted a Homer Simpson gif yesterday. What? That's weird. What's happening? Okay. By the way, let's talk about another combine standout for me. We're going to go outside the box. This is really yours. You can help me with this. New York Jets, okay? The New York Jets. Why don't you do this one? Do you want to do this one?
Sure.
Okay.
Why not?
Go for it.
All right. You handed out two winners of the combine earlier in the show. The third one, we're going with the Jets. It's a little outside the box, but just bear with us.
Okay.
Jets fans have been screaming for a wide receiver or an offensive lineman all offseason. And between what you said before about how the wideouts performed at the combine and just how freakish what we saw from the offensive lineman was, I think they're going to be in line to take another guy that's going to bring this offense to the next level. With that 10th overall pick. I mean, if you look at Notre Dame tackle Joe Alt, they may have to trade up to get him after what he did.
He's huge.
Measured in at 6'8" and 5'8", so almost 6'9", 321 pounds, and he's flying around the field. Mims, the offensive tackle from Georgia, was 6'8", 340, and moving around like a tight end. And those are just a few examples of the guys the Jets could have a shot at in this draft, along with some of those receivers you mentioned before. And remember, they're only picking at 10 because of the Aaron Rodgers injury. If he had played, I forget what the percentage was, 70% of snaps, that pick would have gone to Green Bay. Instead, the Jets get to keep it. So maybe something of a silver lining out of what was a disastrous season. Of course, unless the Jets don't draft either of those positions and the fan base goes nuts. But I really think I'm hearing from some people, this is the best offensive line class they've ever seen. If they can get somebody to protect Rodgers, it could almost make everything they went through last year worth it.
Oh, yeah, Aaron Rodgers.
Guy.
I mean, is this an offseason where we're not going to talk about him? Is a great question.
No chance.
Is this? You don't think so? He'll at some point. That's a good FanDuel Sportsbook should be all over that. Will he be the storyline again? Because if we were to look back at a year ago, right now, it's literally all we were talking about while he was in some deep, dark cave doing some like shadow work. Okay, let's get into so Netflix slam. Just a little recap. It's my current obsession. We already said, yeah. What am I obsessed with? I love Veep. I love ice cream sandwiches. Apparently, I love Succession. Sure, I love Cam Jordan. Why not? My current obsession, Hamilton. Herschel Walker. Why is Herschel Walker on there? Why is he on there? My current obsession is like this random Muse record right over here. There's the format. There's Anderson .Paak. Hamilton, it's tennis. I'm in. Listen, and I've been to Wimbledon. I've eaten the strawberries, the whipped cream, the whole thing. I mean, I'm Polish, so like Herbert Hurczak. Where's Hamilton? And Iga Świątek, I love the world #1. Like I'm Polish. I like very much it resonates with me. Owen, Owen Reynoldsson like loves tennis. Like I never really talk about. I've been to the U.S. Open. I go to the U.S. Open for the vibe, right? The drinks. I'm looking at celebrities. I'm like, I've sat there and I've sat next to people and I'm trying to understand the score. You know that I'm not great at like, even pickleball. We were in the third. I was an hour into playing pickleball in this tournament with Vernon Davis, and I was like, oh, I get it. I have to hit it in that part of the. Got it. It'll go. It doesn't really like latch on to me very quickly like football does. And I had a blast and it was amazing. It was Rafael Nadal, like whose first experience is sitting next to Andre Agassi and talking about his badass shoes. He's, by the way, the coolest dude ever. Andre Agassi is so freaking cool.
That's awesome to hear because I love him growing up. But why was this so much? Because as you said, you were at Wimbledon. I feel like that environment would be the thing to get you into it and excited. What made this so different? I've been to the U.S. Open a couple of times. I don't know. Because I don't like math and numbers, and I'm like, why is it 15? Why is it 30? And then I'm out, and then I'm like, I thought every game was until 12 was to 12, and I go, you play how many games to 12? This is going to take all day, and it didn't resonate with me. But the amount of NFL, that's what I'm currently obsessed with too. And we all know NFL players love ping pong. It's big into the the ecosystem and like the culture of the NFL. There are GMs, there are owners of teams, there are you had, straight off of the combine, Sean McVay with Matthew Stafford, Puka, Cooper, they're sitting there courtside. Jordan Love was there, Colin Kaepernick was in the building. There's a lot of connective tissue with respect for the game of, one of the greats. And I think what I would tell you is why I got compelled by it is the storyline. The storyline of this amazing Spaniard who's changed the game and is one of the best. You can make the argument for him being the best, even though, obviously Djokovic has the numbers. But for him to be like, it's like, and we're going to talk to Hamachek, and it's like Brady to Mahomes, like passing the torch if Mahomes was on the Patriots. Yeah, that's what it was. It was like, this is now yours, and all these Spanish flags that are running, I'm giving it to you. And he lost, and it was okay. Now you're a tough competitor, and it was like a goat to the young goat if they both played for the same team. And I just like a storyline. Okay, would you let me have this? No, it was really cool. It had people, I was hanging out with some people yesterday who aren't even like big tennis fans, and they pulled up Netflix. They wanted to watch it. It was a special moment, and it was cool that you got to be such a big part of it. It was awesome. Thank you to Netflix. Thank you to Words and Pictures. Thank you to Full Day, to everybody for putting on such a great show, and it was amazing. And now, is my ass headed to Indian Wells? Absolutely, I am. I'm a tennis girly. Okay, we'll be back after this. Speaking of Tom Brady. We got to get into this. We've got the Dynasty director. Matt Hamachek is back. He's joining the show. He's going to fill us in some heavy episodes to break down. When would you like me to put that in when would you like me to, what you said? Towards the end. Okay, make sure, will you get in my ear and make sure I get into that? And that's separate? I don't understand. It's like, where's that living? Oh, interesting. Oh, got it. I thought it was, okay, sorry. Got it. Kay is Polish, of course. Guys, I'm the Polish. Are you joking? I remember, Hamilton, when I was at Wimbledon, all I wanted to do was meet Iga. And I went into, like, the
they're like Rolex is a big sponsor, and they have like their suite, and I guess their tradition, which I of course don't know anything about, they like give you a custom watch or a watch after you've won a major. I think she had just won, maybe she won Roland or she won something, but she had just got knocked out of Wimbledon. And so they like trot her into the suite, and there's all these like, sponsorship overlords like gifting her this watch, and she's crying because she just lost. And I was like, this is the weirdest episode of like Veep I've ever seen in the tennis world, where like but it was interesting. But I met her not knowing, and I'm like, hey, cool. And like I don't know anything about like anything, and now I'm obsessed. Current obsession. We're all allowed.
Yeah. No, that's awesome.
I mean, Darius Butler has to come on the show because I tried watching F1 and I'm just bored.
Yeah, that I feel like once you go to some event, you'll be into it. Like just like this. That's what I like seeing. As much as I like to make fun of you about stuff. You immerse yourself in it, and you end up going all in to extremes. But yeah,
it's rare extremes. What else is new? I'm glad you haven't lost your jerky touch since I've seen you last. All right, let's get into this. Why do they change servers so often? What do you mean? What is going on? Eric is Polish. He is. Chicago is the second most Polish city in the world, says someone. I like Pim's cups. Yeah, Pim's goes hard. Aaron Rodgers will get as much focus as last year once camp starts, you think? I don't know if you will. You guys watching Dynasty? It is unbelievable. The access alone is amazing. Yep, that sounds great. 6 episodes in, everybody. My next guest, the director and executive producer of the incredible, riveting, insane access 10-part docuseries, The Dynasty, New England Patriots on Apple TV+. Matt Hamachek is back to break this down. We're 6 episodes in. It's great to see you. We got Strahan lighting it up. He's so delightful to watch. He's talking about Super Bowl losses in 2007 and 2011, Spygate in fine detail, Ernie Adams, the Brady ACL injury. We're going to get into Alex Guerrero. I love it. Egos taking over, all of it. What has been the most surprising response from fans and people in the league probably after these first 6?
I mean, I think in general, everybody has just been, like you sort of talked about, it's, we're telling the unvarnished story of the New England Patriots. So I think everybody's, from what I can tell, has just loved it. And sort of, it's a chance to see a story like this that has been told so many different times in the past, maybe through slight, like very specific lenses, like Bill had a book about him called Education of a Coach, and Tom Brady had his series, but this is sort of a different way of viewing the story. It's unvarnished. It's sort of getting into everything. So I think that's the feedback that I've been getting.
And I think, Aaron Hernandez is episode 6, and you're talking about a different lens. This is something that has been picked over and dissected, and not just the football world, but the world at large knows this story. There have been documentaries made about that tragedy on its own. I don't really remember hearing Robert Kraft talk about it. And RKK is in his rawest form on this subject in front of the camera with the Dynasty on Apple TV+. What did you learn about Robert Kraft with that storyline?
Well, I think the part that really shocked me was when we were talking, there's a moment where the cameras are sort of, the news helicopters are following Aaron Hernandez. He goes to the stadium and Robert goes to talk to him. And he says in this one moment, Aaron, if you did this, I'll hire a lawyer on my dime because I'm sure you had a good reason to do it. And Aaron says, I wasn't there. I was in Rhode Island or something like that. And Robert talks about how it sort of changed him forever because he really thought he had a good barometer for when people were telling the truth to him or not. But it's not just Robert. I mean, it's Deion Branch, it's Wes Welker, it's It's just so many different people who are talking about this. And I think the thing that really mattered to me and to the rest of the team that I made the film with is that, you realize, yes, there's a tragedy here, but this is a person who is beloved. This is not just the headlines and the sort of the more true crime part of this thing. This is a guy that they all deeply cared about. And they had hints of that there was something, but it wasn't anything remotely close to what, transpired. And they really hoped that being in the Patriot way would sort of help him, leave. And I think for us, it was just like, look, these are the guys that were there. Let's just get out of the way and let them tell their stories.
I mean, it's chilling even just to talk to you about it now, and everybody should go watch these episodes, watch the entire series with I believe 4 episodes still to go, and it's sort of this like hard thing to swallow with this deep caring of this person, and then the tragedy. And Kraft says Bill didn't want to release him after the murder charges came down. That's in this docuseries, and
you can understand that though, right? I mean, think about it. It's like you have, from my perspective, an owner and a coach that are both doing what you would hope an owner and a coach would do if you're a player who's caught up in something, right? You have a coach who's basically saying, hold on, let's just take this one step at a time. He actually had nothing, he hasn't been convicted of anything yet, with sort of a due process type of mentality. And then you have an owner who's basically coming in and saying, I'll hire a defense lawyer for you on my dime. And it's like, if you're a player in the NFL and you hear that, I'm thinking like, well, I want to go be at a place like that with those two people who are going to always have my back no matter what. I mean, that was my take on it, at least.
It's a great take, Matthew, and thinking about what this meant as far as the growing disconnect or whatever the journey was between Kraft and Belichick. How much do you think that the tragedy played in them sort of going and the fissure that was created?
I mean, you'd have to ask them. My honest answer is I don't think it played very much at all. I think that, that's something that we get a little bit into in later episodes. But that's, I mean, really, I don't want to put words in their mouths. That's obviously something for them to answer.
Bill Parcells did not hold back on his time with the Patriots, and especially Robert Kraft. The guy literally chose to walk after going to a Super Bowl with the Pats in 1996. What was the most telling part about your time with Bill?
Oh man, I mean, first off, just to sit across from that guy and get to ask him questions about stuff. But it wasn't a difficult interview. It sort of brought it up, and he very clearly just said he didn't think that at the time Robert had any experience and that he was taking the draft away from him, and he didn't like that. And so again, the best stories are ones where you can understand everybody's perspective, no matter who it is. And in Bill Parcells' case, it was okay. Well, yeah, if you're a 2-time Super Bowl winning coach from another team, and somebody's starting to take the draft away from you who's, in your opinion, doesn't have the experience to do something like that and give it to somebody else, then you can understand why they're upset. But the result, if you're a Patriots fan, was they got Terry Glenn and they went to the Super Bowl. And, you can also understand from ownership's perspective, hey, like the decisions that we made in the draft got us to the Super Bowl and now you're leaving. Like it's an odd time to leave. So again, you want to be able to see both sides. And I think that's good storytelling.
And I think I can't wait to watch the Alex Guerrero stuff evolve as it is, because I obviously covered the Patriots in New England through a couple of Super Bowls. I've met Alex. I know players now who work with Alex that, give him a lot of credit. And I mean, Tom Brady did not miss games after he was introduced into his life. It's just true. And, there's people who come, New England fans, people in the building. There's a lot of different opinions. I like that you're just going to let it hopefully unfold and everyone gets to tell sort of their side of the story.
Exactly. That's the whole point of this is, look, I'm not narrating this thing. This is not my telling of the Patriots story. This is the people who are in the rooms, who are there, and it's complicated. And we see Alex's sideline privileges and whatnot were revoked at a certain point. We get Tom's side of it and we get the coaching staff side of it. And that's important because just let these people talk and get out of the way has kind of been our mantra as we put this thing together.
Do you think, I'm asking you now, do you think he was a pivotal part of Tom Brady's success? Like, I
think Tom certainly thinks that he was. I mean, that's the one thing that when you hear Tom talk about it, I mean, he is still passionate to this day. He couldn't believe that Alex had given him and other people so much help And for him to then be pulled away and sort of almost punished, I just think he's still to this day just can't believe that happened.
I can't wait to hear Tom Brady's Hall of Fame speech in a couple of years and how much real estate Alex Guerrero will have. And I think he's a big turning point in where this went as far as him parting ways with the dynasty in New England. Now I'm hearing like there's a little birdie in a producer in my ear telling me that there's an episode coming up that involves Taylor Swift. Is this true? What can you tell me?
Yeah, so in episode 8, which is when Tom comes back from his 4-game Deflategate suspension, sort of the world's on his case, everybody wants to see him fail. He goes on the revenge tour, and we always try to find music that doesn't necessarily, it's not subversive, but it just doesn't necessarily always make it's not the typical way you would show something. And so we decided we were going to try to use Taylor Swift's song "Look What You Made Me Do."
Great song.
When we started to try to license it, we realized that she had not yet recorded her sort of Taylor's version of it. So we had to go to her team, and the album hasn't come out yet. And so we went to her team, and she was on the Eras tour, and we said, hey, this is before the Travis Kelce stuff and everything. And so we said, I know this is football, it might be weird, but would you be interested in letting us have it and use it in this thing? And she was in Mexico City, so we had to wait till those concerts were done. And then she I think, finally watched it and gave us the green light. So this episode, episode 8 drops this Friday, will have the yet to be released version of "Look What You Made Me Do," which is the Taylor's version of the song.
I mean, I cannot wait to see that. And we have the next 2 episodes of The Dynasty entitled Under Pressure and Score to Settle. And those come out this Friday on Apple TV+. Anything else you want to tell us about that, about any of the episodes coming up? A little preview?
Look,
give me something.
All right, look, it's Deflategate. It's the Malcolm Butler interception.
Amazing.
It's a little bit of Tom's backstory in episode 8. And then finally we get to the 28-3 Super Bowl, which in my opinion is one of the greatest sort of football/sports moments ever, and the footage there is just incredible, and it's going to be a lot of fun for people to watch.
It is so fun to watch everybody just give their side of the story, like you're saying, in their words. The access is insane. If you are a sports fan, if you want to be inspired, if you just want to learn a little something about history, please check it out. And those new episodes, both of them come out this Friday again on Apple TV+. Matthew, congratulations on all the success, and thanks, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yep. Thanks so much for having me on.
Thanks, Matthew. Appreciate you. We will be back, guys, tomorrow. I think we might have... Can I say it? Can I say who we might have? Deebo Samuel? Is that true? I'm hearing in my ear. I think we might have Deebo on the show. We have not talked to Deebo since... I think we talked to him once throughout the playoff run. And I know he's back on socials. He's back on the soch. He's figuring stuff out. We might get to talk to Deebo tomorrow on the program. We'll be back. Big thanks to Chris Collinsworth, to Matt Hamachek. Guys, check out The Dynasty over on Apple TV+. We'll be back tomorrow. Bye.